Hey y'all, coffee and tools this week. Bought a red mechanic service cart. You probably know the one I'm talking about. We had discussed similar tools in the past, and I had been talking with the fellow, the big red bear over there at the Den of Tools, and Mr. Bear, I think, has the same kind of psychology as I do, that you get something like that and you start putting tools in it. The next thing you know, you got a pile, and you got to dig through the pile every time you want them. I just didn't like the cart for that reason. The tools were piling up in it all the time, and I had to dig through it and sort it. So I finally cleaned the cart out the one day and says, you know, we got to put this cart to work, but we got to find it. We got to find another job for the cart. So I'm going to show you a project on this red cart that I did this week, just the other day, and I sort of finished it up. We're sort of still in a couple things I still want to do on it, but I'll show you the little tips that I did with it, and you might want to do something similar or maybe a different idea, but you know, put the cart to work instead of, you know, having it just gather a pile of loose sockets and tools, and it just becomes a big nightmare. I'll show you the cart first, and yeah, that cart. And it's just not a very good thing. I'm sure that there's some people out there that can use it. They would have to require the car has to be parked away from their tools. I don't know what the deal would be, because I've parked my car right next to the garage where my tools are, get into my toolboxes, take my wrenches back as I use them. I don't have a pile of tools to dig through. But let's take a look at what I did. Let's see. Yeah, so there's my typical red service cart. Now the bottom of the cart I don't really have a problem with, but the top just gathers junk in it, and I was really unhappy with it. So what I did was I nailed this on some 2x4s that I fit inside the cart, and that sort of gave me a way to have this belt sander here instead, because the cart itself to me is absolutely useless. The place to keep tools is not that cart, and I mean, we all know it, but it would pile up, and the next thing you know, you'd have a mess. Like, let's see if I got and okay, and I'll show you. Here's a cart. Well, here's a roll around, you know, and I mean, it can go just about as far as that cart can go, but this is the way to keep tools, you know. Keep them in a spot like this. Use one, when you're done with it, bring it back, put it back in its spot, and that way you always have everything right where you think you need it, where you have it, where you own it, you know. Same thing here, you know, it's all regulated to where everything is. Impacts right there, you know. This isn't even ideal, but unfortunately that's all I've got right now. It's budget constraints. And then, you know, other assortments of things. Pliers go with pliers, whatever. Just an example, you know, torque wrenches, and specialty type ratchets and whatever. But the idea is that this cart that I'm showing you was it would just pile up with tools. So it was like, you know, a foot deep and stuff just piled. And I realized this is just a bad thing. It's just bringing a bad habit. Even the bottom right now, I'm not too fussy on that, but that's okay. I am storing some stuff on the bottom, and I'm all right with it. And it's heavy stuff, so it helps to keep the cart down. Now, one of the first things I did with the cart was a big problem here. The cart isn't very stable on the wheels that it came with. So what I did was I took the bolts out and moved the wheels outbound to the very extreme here, so they're right on the edge. That helped a lot to, you know, really stabilize the cart. It really made a big difference. I was kind of surprised how much of a difference it did make. The other thing I did on this particular one was, I'll go around the back side here, and you can see what I did. I nailed some boards back here, screwed them right into the cart, and then I shot some wood screws here with just some, you know, 1x2 strips of lumber, and I nailed a little backboard on it to go around with the cart. And you can hang stuff. I can have a shelf or whatever it is later on. Right now, this is kind of like, you know, the beginning of the idea. This area here will probably be all my extra sanding belts for this machine placed here. Any other tools related to that will be there, but right now that's, well, that's all I have for the Delta sanding. But this was a project that took several turns this week. I tried first, I'll just show you what I did. I actually took a grinder and put slots in here to shoot screws through, and then try to put a board across that I could nail this onto. And I really didn't like the way it came out. I was just not happy with it. And then I realized, you know, I can just put regular 2x4 lumber, full pieces, just cut the length, stick them in there, nail this to the 2x4. Now, I'm going to show you what I did in case you want to do something similar. It works the same for my portable saw, so it might be a pretty cool thing. This is about a 2-inch dock screw, or deck screw. And then the nut itself is a 5/16 regular chrome nut that you can buy. I have a box full. Long story behind how I ended up with a box full, but I have a box full of those things. So I use this as a washer instead of a big flat washer or something like that, and drive the screws in. But that holds this whole assembly together, and that allows, also back here I have enough space brought forward that I can get the belt and I can slide it off and remove the belt still from the machine. So we're not quite finished here. I have ordered new sanding belts because I just got this machine back a few months ago. It's been gone probably about I guess it's been about 5 years out of my hands. Unfortunately, due to circumstances, the machine came back, which was really not expected. And I have been frustrated trying to find a place for this thing. So I finally figured that one out. Because we're doing sort of like the project stuff this week and some things are already done, I'm going to show you another little project that I did this week. At the same time as we did that one, I also did this. Now, this doesn't look bad, but what it really is, I'll show it to you here, is it's this little guy right here, the router. I took the router off the stand, which is right here, and the reason I did it was I almost never use the router. The router, man, the last time I used the router was probably a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago. And I took 2 pieces of 1/2-inch plywood that was scrap, cut up squares and nailed them to this. So this has got wood screws going this way up through that are 3/4 of an inch, so they don't quite penetrate the whole 1 inch. And then did the same thing on the top, and again used the trick with the 5/16 nuts that I have, because I have, like I said, I got a box full of these things. I got the lifetime collection, and nailed the saw to this. And now this just so happens, this is my my main workbench, my project bench. This is where I do all my projects, and I like to keep it empty unless I have a project going on, then it's on that bench. And what happened was the height, as I'll just slide this forward and you'll see, look at that, right over top of the bench, just enough that, so anything I'm clearing or cutting, I can put it right on top of this, right off the saw. So it actually, the idea at least, came out really good. Now I've got one little problem. The motor in the saw is making a lot of noise, and it sounds pretty weird, like it's giving up. So we might be shopping for a table saw, excuse me. We might be shopping out for a table saw pretty soon. It's just unfortunate. But that was the other project this week that went on. And I might still make a stand later on for the router, but I don't know. There's the other possibility would be to get the Craig router and do an insert here on my work table and just have that where you can bring the router in or out as you need it for, you know, work. But router, I almost never use it, so what's the point, right? The router has probably not run in a couple of years, and I don't know, I don't even have an idea as to when I would next use a router right now. So it's just all the more reason to just go ahead and just, you know, swap it out, steal the legs, and use them for the saw. So I had no other place for the saw either right now. Both of these tools have been gone more than 5 years, and came back with an unfortunate situation, so I ended up with stuff that almost sort of wrote off, didn't want. Now, the third item, which I just sort of stood in front of, but I'll show it to you anyways this week, but this was a heck of a buy. This was at a yard sale for very, very little money, and so I bought it. And it's used, it's scuffed up a little bit, which I kind of like, because, you know, when stuff is banged up, it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about scratching anything up. It's already been scratched up for me. And there's again the top of the, I took the, let's see, this was the old Cobalt toolbox that I bought a couple years ago. Took it apart and fit it into the drawers. And that way it has a nice organized layout like that where, you know, the sockets, the ratchets, everything is laid out kind of nice in here. And I really like, you know, keeping my tools that way. But for a roll around, I'm gonna back up here a little bit more. Yeah, for a roll around, it's like, man, that is an awesome deal. Look at that, Craftsman, yes sir. Craftsman workbench. Craftsman, Craftsman, and Craftsman, of course. So, pretty, that's the wall of Craftsman right there, oh yeah. But getting back to this is just one way, like I said, of giving the cart a good purpose, a use, something that I could be much happier with than what I've been doing. And so hey, guys, thanks for watching Coffee and Tools. See ya in a couple days.